Okay, we'll get started on this SOP 4 training. This is to a blue level. So it's something that you should be thinking about and using every day that you come to work. When you have some issues or you have some good ideas or something like that, this would be the process to follow. And I mentioned before that the first tab of all our procedures doesn't really have anything to do with the actual training material itself. So we'll just jump straight to the details of the training, which is on the second tab, process details. And this process is about corrective and continuous improvement actions. So nothing in this procedure should be viewed as being punitive by any means. I don't know where you all come from in your working history, but some places used to use corrective actions as a method of discipline and that sort of thing. That's not how Trigo works. We use it as a tool to improve what's been going wrong, or something that needs to be fixed or improved. Okay, so don't ever think of these as being punitive. So taking corrective action, we would always take corrective action in incidences of non-conforming services, products that directly affect the customer's or client's requirements not to have been met. That would be like an escape or a customer complaint, including non-conformances generated by our training provider body approval. That is our SOP 12 that is referring to. Supplier performance delivery issues. So if we order something from somewhere and it doesn't show up on time, it could shut us down, and we would therefore cause our customer not to meet their requirements, and we would not be fulfilling our duties. So if we're ordering stickers and stuff like that that aren't showing up on time, or they show up with the wrong logo or wrong words, we need to issue those suppliers corrective actions. Audit findings that we do internally within Trigo, if they score below 80%, we would want to open a corrective action. Significant risks and trends identified from data analysis. This means our KPIs or anything else that we're tracking, when it doesn't start meeting the requirements or the goals that have been set for it, we should open a corrective action to get ourselves back on track. And also correcting or preventing any substandard acts or conditions. So safety issues, that sort of thing, we would want to open corrective actions to fix those right away. Are there any questions on when we would use an action report?
No.
Okay. It's the responsibility of all the directors, senior managers to set alerts within the SharePoint system to know when their regions are creating or updating any corrective actions or continuous improvements. So I'll walk you through that right now. If you go to SharePoint and you go to the Operations tab, and click on the Action/Alert Reports section, you'll see in here some logs, and then you'll see a bunch of regions listed within here. So your region should be listed here. If we're talking about, for instance, corporate, if that's our region, we would click on the corporate and go over here to where there's more details in the header section that you can do, and there's one there called Alert Me. And if you click on Alert Me, a screen will come up that's going to show you a number of options of when you can be alerted and why you can be alerted. The delivery method of the alert, we should always use our email. It's just better than using up our text message sections. So click on email. The change type would be, you would want to know about all the changes that are happening within your region. So click on all changes. Send alerts for these changes. So the types of changes, again, all kinds of changes. When it's modified by anybody or anybody's putting something into place, you want to be alerted to that. So anything changes. And when to be alerted is up to you. It's not recommended that we use a weekly summary, because then you're behind 4 or 5 days potentially. So you would want to set up a daily alert or a notification that immediately in your emails. When you set up the daily alert, you can set it up for any time of the day that you want to receive these alerts of what's changed, and it will give you a summary of what's happened on that day for your region. And then you'll simply click OK, and then your alert will be set. Okay, so you will get these emails depending when you set them up. Whenever anybody has opened a corrective action or put some information into a current corrective action that's been going on, that's what you want to be notified about, so you can go in there and look and see what's been done for the day. Are there any questions on that? You are all expected to set that up. Okay, 10.1.6 of the procedure here talks to you about how to do that, and there's a link in there on how to get to where you need to be. Okay. The corrective action process. I'm going to walk you through the process instead of reading all of these words, but when you need to create your first corrective action, by all means reach out to myself, reach out to your manager or director, and they will help you and walk you along the correct path on how to create these alerts and take actions. So if you had a customer complaint today, you would come into this same section that we just created alerts on, and if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you're going to see a number of logs here. There's a major action log, a minor action log, an OFI log, and then there's things we have quality alerts, safety alerts, along with their logs. So what you're going to do is, more than likely, you will have a minor corrective action. A minor corrective action means that there's something missing from the process. A document has been missing, a record, we missed a step as part of our process, we had one escape from a customer. That would be a minor corrective action. A major corrective action, which is highly unlikely that you would open, would be a total system breakdown where absolutely nothing is being followed at the site or for the customer. 100% of the parts escaped, and that's what a major action would be. So chances of opening the major action are fairly slim. So you would come into your minor action log, you would open it up, and you'll see when it opens up that just waiting for it, on the actual action log itself, you see when it opens up, you would take the very next number that's available. The very next number today to be available is 41-18. So you would make note to yourself that your number is 41-18. You put today's date. You would fill in the car with an X in this column. If it's safety related, you would also put an X in the safety column. Then you're going to write in the customer customer PRR number, NC ticket number. You're going to put that in the column here. Usually it's going to be our customer's name. Please don't put just Chrysler, put the actual Chrysler customer that you're working for, that sort of thing. The initiating location is going to be your region where you are working. The initiator is going to be yourself or the person that notified you of the issue. It could be your boss that notified you of the issue. The champion is going to be the person responsible for this corrective action to make sure it's fully implemented and all the documents have been put on SharePoint and the corrective actions that we come up with have been put in place at the site and they validated everything. So more than likely you are going to be the champion of the corrective actions that you open. Then you're going to have a brief description of what the problem or the issue is, if you had an escape or if there's been a safety issue, an incident, that sort of thing. Just a very brief description of what's going on. And these next columns you probably will not be able to close right away, so it would be the number of defects if you had an escape would go in this column, and the resort hours that it took to resort material. You may not know that right away. It may take a few days, and that's okay. You will not have a close date because you're not closing this corrective action, so you're simply going to save this right back onto SharePoint, okay, with your information, and you know your number is 41-18. From that point forward, you're going to go into your region. We're pretending we're corporate. We'll go into corporate. We'll go in the current year. There's nothing there. Nothing there. Sorry. Okay. The last time there was a corporate issue was 2015. So you would go into your current year though, 2018, and you would create a new folder by the drop down menu there, and you will name that folder a small m if it's a minor issue and a capital M if it's a major issue. So you will put small m followed by car, then 41-18 and 0. Okay? So you open up that folder, and within there you're going to put your corrective action. Okay? We get that corrective action back on the Action Alert tab. So if we go back to the main tab for Action Alerts, oh, my SharePoint stopped sharing for me. Oh, here we go. Okay, back on this main tab here, when we scroll down again to the bottom, you will see a blank action report. So you'll open that blank action report, and you'll save this onto your desktop so you can change it and edit it and that sort of thing. So save it onto your system. Just wait for it to open here so I can walk you through filling it in. Okay, so we'll edit it. Okay, so along this very top row here, the row in gray, there are drop down menus for you to choose. So we're going to choose a minor corrective action. The source is going to be, we're pretending it's a customer complaint, so a customer issue. And in this box here, we're going to put our number, which was 41. Okay, then we're going to put who it was initially reported to. You're going to put yourself, so your name. You're going to put the date in here and what time the issue was reported to you. Okay. Again, there's a drop down menu on here. When you click your region, your location, where you are. We're saying Oshawa. And what process has been affected by this? So was it a sorting process, containment, a minor rework? We'll pretend it was a minor rework for us. And then we're going to put in here the name of the company that was affected, their contact name, the person's phone number, their email address, and anything else that they may have, maybe a fax number, who knows. Okay, you'll fill that information in. In this row here, is it escape related? Yes. And if it is escape related, we need the part number put in, the number of pieces that escaped, so the number that the customer has reported to us, say 5, and how many hours the resort took. We may not know that information yet. That's fine to leave it blank. The contract number affected, the invoice number affected, or the impact to the plant, and was there any downtime? These need to be filled in with the information. And then on these rows, we want to know from the time of setup, did this issue occur within our first hour of work, the first shift of work, the first week of work, or if it's something else, we'll just put it in here, the first month, we're saying. And then we're going to put what our issue is here in detail, okay? Not a quick blurb on, you can't just say that we had an escape. You have to put in all the information, like the escape on the weld nut that was assembled on this date. So fill in all kinds of information that you can. And then we're going to save this into our folder that we created. So we're going to save this back onto SharePoint in the folder that we created. Back here in our corporate. And we're going to save it right in here. Okay, so we will upload the one that we saved on our desktop. Is that clear?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. And we are going to name it MCAR 41-18. That's what we will name it when we load it in here, so that when we open the folder, we can clearly see what it is we're opening. Okay, so as this yellow box here indicates, this whole section will be done before the end of your shift. Okay, you'll notify in the communication logs at your sites or via emails to the people that would be involved at this site that there's been a problem, so that they're notified for the next shift and in case they have the same problem. Okay, and you also copy your boss. Okay, so then when you come in the next day, more than likely, or the same day, depending on what time of day this issue happened, if it happened first thing in the morning, you'll continue on with this process here that needs to be done. This section here needs to be done within the first 24 hours of the issue. So within the first 24 hours of the issue, you're going to put what your immediate actions were. So you resorted the material, you started a new witness mark, you notified the customer that you've opened a corrective action, you've notified your boss of the corrective action, yada yada, whatever you've done immediately. And when it's been escape related, we need to check off all the boxes here within this section here. We need to verify the defect, verify PIC is responsible, verify PIC's witness mark, verify traceability to us, create a new witness mark and notify the customer. You're going to purge all the stock, revise the work instruction and post a quality alert. Send the breakpoint to the customer, however you communicate with the customer. Document change in the communication log. Have the customer approve and sign the work instruction. And verify the new method with a 100% inspection for 1 day. All this happens when we've had an escape. Okay? As well as that, at the bottom here, there are team members that can be filled in. Always will be yourself as the champion or whoever the champion has been assigned. Always, always, always is going to be the director of the region. And always is going to be myself on the call. And then you will include others, lead hands, supervisors, managers, sometimes inspectors. HR may need to be involved, or finance might need to be involved. You'll list these members here. And then you will create root cause conference call, and you do that with your Outlook. You'll go into Outlook and create a new appointment for all these people. You'll invite all these people to a conference call, and we will discuss the root cause. Okay, this is going to happen within 24 hours of the issue. So when we're looking at root cause, we're asking ourselves why. Why did this happen? And then we'll come up with an answer. And then we'll ask ourselves why again for that answer. And we'll have another answer. And we'll keep asking why until we drill down and get to the true root cause of why this issue happened. And that's what will go into our report as the initial root cause. What we think happened, okay? You will load this corrective action back into your folder again with the new information that you've completed. You'll load it back in here again, just save it on top of the original copy. So this document is what we call live, and it's constantly being updated. So we're not going to have 6, 7 versions of the corrective action in here. We're only going to have the one that you keep updating. Is that clear?
Yeah.
So once we've established what the root cause is, we're going to work on our long-term permanent action. So quite often in the initial root cause conference call, we also discuss what we can do to fix that problem. So the thing we're going to fix is the initial root cause, okay? It may not be the specific piece of paper that was wrong, if that was our issue. We're going to fix how that piece of paper became wrong. So our initial root cause is what we have to address in our permanent corrective action. And these are going to be put into place within 3 days of the issue. Okay, so you might try 2 or 3 different things, but you're going to do it all within 3 days of the initial complaint. You may have additional conference calls after you've tried some things with the team down here, with these team members. just to give updates or let them know that what you're trialing is working or not working, and we can brainstorm more ideas on things to try. And that all still needs to happen within the 3 days. Okay, so we really need to jump on things when they're customer related to make sure they're fixed in a very timely fashion. Often best practices are not being used. So I urge you, when we look at our SharePoint here, back in the Action Alert Report section, the main tab, you're going to see a folder here that's called Best Practices. In the Best Practice folder, you're going to see a number of cars listed here over time, and all of these cars have generated best practices for us. There's one here called the Best Practice Log, and when you open the Best Practice Log, it has in there listed all of our best practices that we've had over the years, and it's a useful tool to understand what we expect of everybody when we're setting up sites. So we want our best practices utilized when we're setting sites up. There's a tab in there called Best Practices Categorized, and that takes all the ones that are in this folder individually and puts them on one page for you, and it's based on categories. So the first category is setup. So one of our best practices for setup is do not rely strictly on a visual check, when a simple physical check can be made, placing a pin gauge into a hole and verifying the presence of the hole. That's just an example. A touch point method is also very useful when we're relying just on eyes. Wherever possible, we always want to have the inspector engage the part that they're looking at and not just engage it with their eyes. We want them to physically touch the part, maybe trace with their finger along the surface of what they're inspecting, that sort of thing. So setup, there's a number of issues here that we had over the years, and we've created best practices for setup. And you should be using as many of these as possible when you're setting up your site. When we get to witness marking, we have a number of best practices for witness marking product. And again, use as many of these as you can. They are what we have deemed to be good. Container packaging is another section. So when you get to that section of your work instruction, try and use as many of these best practices as possible. Gauging and tools, when we're using gauges and tools in our work instructions, these are some best practices that must be used as well. If we're performing a rework, there's some best practices. And then finally, there's some management best practices. So our management team also needs to follow best practices, not necessarily written in the work instructions, but they need to perform these best practices as part of their duties. So I urge everybody on this call to go into the action section of SharePoint, print off this tab and keep it with you. Okay, it's a good thing to refer back to when you're setting your sites up. Okay? So that's what this section here is about on the corrective action. It's about best practices. So if your particular corrective action is going to develop into a new best practice for us, that's where we would describe it right in here in this section. And then we would also put a copy of that into our management management meetings that we have monthly, and update the best practice log to include this new best practice, and we would train everybody on the new best practice that we've come up with. Okay, so we've put our permanent corrective action in place within 3 days, and then for the next 4 days or 3 days, we're going to be watching that process, and then we're going to verify that what we put in place is actually working, and we're no longer having the issue that we had, or we're no longer having the escapes that we had. And you can do that a number of ways. You can audit the section, the people. You can put a red rabbit through the system. A red rabbit is a known bad part that we put into the system, into the box of products, say, and we watch the inspector find that red rabbit. If they don't find that red rabbit, our fix has not been good. Okay, they can't still find the bad issues. If they do find the red rabbits, perfect. They've understood and they're now utilizing the new methods we put in place, or they're realizing what a bad product is, and that's great. Please, when you put a red rabbit into a product, you cannot leave that site and take your eyes off of that red rabbit. It is a bad part. And if the inspector does not catch it, we don't want it going through the system and making it to the customer. Okay, you must always keep your eyes on that red rabbit and retrieve it after the inspector has finished their inspections. Okay. So once that has been done and you've verified, you will have another call with all these team members that you've listed and request closure of your car because your problem has been fixed. The only person that can close your corrective action is the director of your region. Okay, in his absence or her absence, I can close your corrective action. But first and foremost, it would be the director of the region that would be the one to close the corrective action. When they do say, yes, it's good to close, we're going to discuss it in the ops call. So in the operations call, there is a section at the bottom of the ops minutes that needs to be populated with information. I'll just run you straight to that right now. So on SharePoint, we have our operations minutes waiting for us, and they're there every month for us to fill in. If we scroll down here to the bottom, we've got the key closed cars section. So you're going to fill out this information on here, and then you're going to send me this whole agenda showing your corrective action is in here for closure. Or you can simply clip and copy and paste this section into an email and send that to me, and I'll make sure it gets into the manager's minutes for discussion. Okay, so once we've done that, we've discussed it in the ops call. You can click discussed in the ops call. Has this been discussed with the customer? If it's a customer related issue, it should always certainly be yes. You need to inform the customer of the actions we're taking and what we're doing as we go along the corrective action process. It gives the customer a warm fuzzy that we are actually paying attention and taking their problems very seriously. Okay? If it's a new best practice, we'll click off yes. If it's not, we click off no. The date that it was closed and closed by will be your director's name put in here. And again, you'll save that right back onto SharePoint. You'll save it back into your folder that you created. So when we go back to our folder, we're going to go in here and we're going to upload everything that has to do with this corrective action. So it's not just going to be the corrective action that's in this folder. You may have pictures of the good part, the bad part. You may have emails from the customer. You might have data sheets that showed we resorted material. You might have the new work instruction in there showing the new witness mark color or method. And whatever else has to do with this corrective action will be loaded into this folder. So it should not just be the car that's in this folder. It needs to have supporting data. Okay, is that clear?
Good.
Good. So that's what this whole section here talks about. It talks about naming, how to name your folders, how to name your actual corrective action within your folder. We do have to name them a certain way in case they do become best practices. We're going to copy and paste these over into the best practice log, and we would like to know what regions they come from. So in your naming convention is going to be not only your car and car number, it's going to include the date the car was opened, your region, and an indicator of O for open or C for closed. So when we look at this log back here, you can see this car here is open. It's got an O at the end of the name. If we go back into some other regions, we can find something that's been closed. We'll go into Oshawa just to get some examples for this current year. And you can see all of their actions have been closed. There's a C indicator on all of them. And we'll just open one up. And you can see there's a number of things in this corrective actions besides just the corrective action. Okay, so here's the actual corrective action here. It's not actually named correctly. It's missing its location in it and the name. So don't copy what's going on in these corrective action folders. Please refer back to the procedure and name them as they should be named in these examples here. Okay?
Yeah.
Any questions? Anybody? That's what this whole section here is talking about for corrective actions. If we do open a major corrective action, please note that the major corrective action will be brought all the way to the executive level and looked at by the executives. We take major actions very seriously, and we really want to make sure that we put major actions to bed and they don't reoccur. So that is why the executive teams look at those. Okay. Any questions on corrective action?
No.
Okay, continuous improvements. We'll move on to continuous improvements now. And continuous improvements are really, really simple. Again, if we go to our main tab, action/alert reports, you will find on here, when we scroll down, you will find an OFI log. OFI stands for Opportunity for Improvement. Okay? You will open the log, just as you did for the corrective actions. We log our improvement ideas as well. And you will see there's only one currently for this year. So the next number for an opportunity for improvement would be 2-18. If it's safety related, you'll put an X in the safety column. The initiating pick location, who's initiating this corrective action? The initiator. As you can see by the one above, Mr. Pellerio initiated one and I became the champion of it. Okay, so the initiator and champion may not be the same people. And in here you'll put an explanation of what your improvement idea is about. And if you happen to know about the cost savings that it would generate, you can put that in there. And if you don't currently know that, you can leave it blank, that's fine. And you save this log back onto SharePoint just as you did the minor action log. I did forget to mention in the corrective action section, once you close your corrective action and we have closure, you go back into the log and put in the rest of the information that you are missing. I apologize for that, I'm going backwards a little bit. You come in here and put your close date in, and if you know the number of defective parts and resort hours, you'll put those in there as well. Okay, and you save that back onto SharePoint. Okay, back to the OFIs. So if we're creating an OFI, we're going to go back into SharePoint. We're going to go into our region, into the library, into the current year, and you're going to create a folder again, new, and you're going to name it your OFI and the number it is. Okay, you're going to go in there. Within there, you're going to put your corrective at your emails, conversations, whatever format that you're putting the improvement idea in will go in here. If it's not a format or anything, say it's just a suggestion on where to purchase new materials that are cheaper, you'll put in here the quotes that you've received, any correspondence you've had back and forth with the new supplier, perhaps an updated approved vendors list if they're becoming our new vendor for something. So anything to do with your corrective action or your improvement idea, you're going to load into this folder right here. And when it's done and implemented, you're going to go back into the log and put your close date. Okay? When we want to start an improvement idea, we tell our manager or supervisor about the idea, and they escalate it up to the director level, and it's discussed at the directors meetings before you take your number off the log. That's important because if the idea is already being done by another location, it's just been started or it's in progress, we don't want to duplicate efforts, and we'll let you know that it's already been taken care of. And if it's agreed that it is a great opportunity for improvement, we'll let you know, and then you will take your number from the log and you'll carry on with the process as we've done here. When your improvement idea has been done, you'll present that improvement idea at the manager's call that we have monthly so that everybody's aware of the new improvement that we've made. It could be to our processes, our systems, some forms, something, but we want everybody to know about them, so we'll talk about them at the manager's call. So So there is no particular format on how to document your improvement idea. It's whatever means you deem necessary to show proof that your idea was put in place and that it's working effectively. Any questions on improvements? No. Improvements are also a KPI that we have this year. It's one of, we would like to have 4 per region. So if you have any continuous improvement ideas, please let your boss know so they can escalate it up and we can get these into place. Okay. No questions on any of this material? Okay, I need everybody on this call, please, to send me an email stating you were on the call, that you've been trained to this, and I will send out some validation questions next week, and we can go through making sure that you understood what we went through. But again, nobody expects you to be able to run with this process right away. Your first 2 or 3 corrective actions and improvement ideas, you'll have plenty of help with them, okay? So don't panic. But just know when you do need to take corrective actions, these are the reasons why we would take corrective actions here in 10.1.5, and that's all you really need to know, so you can always ask. Okay? Okay, appreciate your time, guys. Have a great day.
Hey, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yep.